somewhere, and I know it's the criticism of the sidewalks that go to nowhere, but eventually those sidewalks all hook up and you have a walkable community. So I see what you're saying with the 10%, because even if there's a bike trail that doesn't lead, eventually the plan would be that all the bike trails would connect and you could have it. So I understand that. We're just trying, staff needs to work on either a number or an acreage for the TF district only that would protect somebody who comes in and puts in one duplex, that, you know, they're not having to worry about what the heck they're gonna do for 10%.
Unless there's connecting on either side.
Right, yeah, and if their neighbors already
Gotta
have,
have
yeah.
activities.
And I know you addressed that issue of connectivity in the other documents, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of
All right, on zoning, what other
Soldier.
things do we have questions on?
Would that also apply for fourplexes?
the fourplexes.
I can't think of any fourplex info, though.
I'm just,
I know, you throw it out there. I can't.
I'm just throwing it out there.
What was your question?
Would that characterize for fourplexes as well?
The
I guess?
10%?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean.
Well, I'm talking about, would we put a acreage number on that or a unit number for fourplexes as well? Because most likely on infill, you're only going to have either a duplex or a fourplex in there.
Could they even
The
ask
one
for
I'm
a
thinking about
variance
is-
and go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment? I mean, we're not even exploring that. But if somebody came in with a duplex or a fourplex, that they could not meet this 10%, they could go to the BZA, ask for a variance, and they could build it without the 10%, correct?
They could.
So, I mean, I think you could get a variance, because it happens all the time, if you can't meet our current ordinances. So there is another avenue for developers to go to if it is something that, so it's something to think about.
Particularly the fourplex on a single lot is a very unique situation.
I can't think of it ever.
That's a very
I mean,
unique situation.
I can't think
That's
of
an
it.
ideal candidate for the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, exactly. So, to me, you know,
Just leave it at the-
we could even leave it in here and, you know, if it ever did come up for infill, which is a rare thing, they could go to the BZA, and I'm sure the BZA would grant it because it would be logical. And I know I was on the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Sometimes we had setback requirements and there was already a building there. Obviously, logically, they can't pick up and move a building to have a bigger setback. This would be the same type of situation for infill. So if you, I mean, everyone will have to kind of wait. To me, maybe we should just leave the 10% and staff can always direct any kind of infill to just go for a variance with the BZA. And I don't see this as, I don't know, what are your all opinions on that?
Well, we'll tweak the two-family one, but I wouldn't change the multifamily.
Right. Okay.
That's what I understood.
Okay. What other questions did you need answered tonight on the zoning?
Zoning, street design regulations, letter E. That's a bit tricky because our street design regulations right now for the city are within the municipal code. So they're working with Public Works and Engineering.
Didn't we, when we went over that the first time? We were trying to promote clustering.
Yeah, and we have that, and we go into depth with it in the design review guidelines. I don't know how is that something we really want to address in the code?
Do the other cities address it? Do we currently address that in our current codes?
We say, please go to point, whatever in the municipal code.
Well, we just say like it has to be 24 feet excluding curb and gutter, minimum right of way 50 feet. Isn't that something we do want to include? Because it's in our current codes and other cities include that in their codes. So why would we not want to have it in ours?
I think our thought there was, as we're going through the design standards, we had some questions about the Overland Park. We were wanting to include vehicular circulation standards that they have. Overland Park does include basically what we were going to include in our zoning and their standards. So our thought there was if they have it laid out in their standards, they have the width specified in their standards, to simply have it in one place, have it only in the standards, and not
Not
make it in
necessarily.
both.
Oh, okay, so you're
So you're not
talking
so
about
not
having
doing it
zoning,
twice.
having the
Yeah.
standards.
Well, and I
Okay.
think, and it's important too, because we were discussing about discouraging private streets. So I guess probably the reason why I want it spelled out is if we're gonna discourage private streets, then they need to know what a public street is, so.
And it is intensively laid out thanks to Overland Park and the design portion of the guidelines.
Well, all you're doing is giving reference points there, correct? I mean, which, it's just a matter of you filling in the X's, is that what I figured you would do that? Seems
Mhm.
reasonable to me, and they can go back and they can read that.
Well, and I think if you ever amend it, it's a lot easier because then you're
Right,
amending
This is just
that
an
number.
overview document.
Yeah,
Right.
and you don't have to make sure that you go in and change everything. I think it makes it
Yeah,
a lot
that makes
easier.
a lot of sense to me to do it that way.
Okay, we're all agreed?
Are the street requirements different for multifamily in the municipal code? I apologize, I'm not familiar with.
I don't think that they're
They're
very
not.
different at all.
Actually, if they're internal private streets, they actually have to meet city standards. So what they do instead is they do internal private drives, where one parking lot meets to the next via drive, rather than a street. So, but if it's a private street inside of a development, it has to meet city standards.
The one
We're
difference,
running-
so
I'm
the
sorry,
one
go ahead.
difference for the street standards is that multifamily has to have direct access to a arterial road, which is not with single family. That's one requirement that is added to multifamily, so that when you have a high-density project, that they are to I can't think what is classification, A or B street, where it's a main arterial road,
Okay.
and those have different standards than your regular streets do.
The new complex there on Adams Dairy,
Mhm.
are those private drives? Is that how they did
They're
that?
private.
Because we have access problems with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure you do.
That you do.
It's, and they've actually tried to be proactive and contacted us about parking
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. But that's my biggest concern with any of these is, now the new one on Moreland School Road and 7, they've got really wide drives, and they've done really well for us. Not that they were thinking about us at the time. But the one here at Adams Dairy is going to be pretty horrible if we ever have to get much in there.
Is that full yet? Because I have to tell you, the residents there have been very good about parking. You know those little teeny parking places for visitors? They've been really good at parking on the visitor parking place, which kind of, I thought they'd all be parking on the streets, and they've actually been really responsible in parking where they're supposed to, so.
I think the property manager over there, they've contacted us a couple of times. I think that they're trying to really be, again, proactive in making sure that people
They
park
have
where
to
they're
be,
supposed
because
to.
if they're parked on the streets, it's gonna be a real problem in there. So, but whenever I've driven through there, they seem to be parking in the
Yeah, they're
designated
working really
areas,
well.
so good. It's good to hear. Okay, Paige, any other areas we need to work on?
I don't think so, because all the rest were the same highlighted issues that we've already addressed.
Well, and staff probably have an opportunity to kind of review what Dr. Browse put together, but it's cleaned up, and we appreciate the help. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love help.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go on to, because I'm trying to, so that we have time for, I'm sure you guys. No problem. So we have time to go through that. Okay, the design standards, and then when we get to the points where we had asked for input from the police department, the fire department, I guess we'll make sure they interject, because there were certain sections that we knew we definitely wanted to have safety features included from both the fire and the police, so.
Now, in the second document, I did go ahead and take liberty in terms of combining some of the intent statements, combining some of the other information and reformatting some of it just for purposes of flow. So if you want to look at the intent, I just took both intent statements and blended them.
Oh, great. Because we had no idea. We just stuck
And
in
I took out, I don't like to use the word general just because, I mean, it's either intent, general. So you'll find that and I did not use in a lot of the language from the intent on, I did not put multifamily because we've already identified what we're about here. So to have that statement in the references each time didn't make sense to me. I mean, this is all about multifamily.
That's what it's about.
So that's why you're going to see there's less language.
All right, design standards page, which ones did you have questions on that we needed to make a decision about?
Okay.
And stop when he.
Were you comfortable with the intent statement?
I think so.
It's fabulous.